IELTS with Matt, making you sound more natural, confident and professional in your studies and at work. Now, a lot of students, they worry about their grammar or their pronunciation or even their vocabulary. I don't know enough vocabulary. But you don't need to worry too much about that, because in IELTS, if you have a good enough level of English, you just need to learn strategy. So today we'll learn strategy for some predicted speaking questions, and we will look at these questions which are being used from March until August 2023. So today we'll be looking at strategies for the part 2 of the speaking, which is the long answers. So you have to speak for around 1 to 2 minutes, and this is a great place that you can show some really good grammar, vocabulary and paraphrasing skills using some simple strategies. So the question today is, talk about a daily routine that you enjoy, and you'll need to talk about what it is, when you do it, and how it makes you feel and why it's important. Now, in the exam, you'd have 1 minute to prepare this answer. So today I'm going to give you my Band 9 answer. And yeah, hopefully you could learn some strategies that you could apply to this question and other part 2 questions also. So, your time begins now. That's for me. I'm going to talk a little bit about something that I do every day that I like. As for what it is, the daily activity that I really love is going for a walk in the morning. I usually try to get out for my walk around 6 a.m. before starting my work for the day. Now, I'm lucky enough to live in a pretty scenic area, so there are some absolutely stunning walking trails nearby. I love going along the coast or through the woods, listening to the birds and taking in all the natural beauty around me. For me, it's a great way to start the day, and it clears my mind and energizes me for the day ahead. I also find that it's a nice way to disconnect from technology and just focus on being present and in the moment. In terms of how it makes me feel, well, I guess I'm more calm and centered because of it. It's a simple thing, but it makes a big difference in my overall well-being. It's an easy routine that you can do anywhere, even if I'm traveling or away from home. It's a habit that has definitely made a positive impact on my life. So there you go. As you can see, some of those yellow highlighted phrases are some strategies that I teach to students to help them start their part 2 speaking, and you could use that for most part 2 answers. So I really like it because it helps you to use pronunciation strategies. So I'm going to talk, you say I'm gonna talk a little bit about, not a little bit about, a little bit about. That shows some nice linking sounds that you can get in there, and also work on your intonation. So that shows your good pronunciation features. As for what it is, that's a nice way to start talking about one of those bullet points. And in terms of how, so that's another way that you can start to talk about one of those bullet points. And I like those 2 ways because it's complex grammar and it also just sounds quite natural, and it's a way to structure your speaking easily without having to think too much. Let's move on to some collocations. If you're enjoying this video, I'd like to ask you for a huge favor and to share this on a Facebook group or on a WhatsApp message or WeChat to somebody else or a group of people that might find this useful too. So these are some of the collocations. So collocations just means vocabulary, or it could be simple vocabulary that just naturally goes together. And that shows that you're at a high level of English if you use words that naturally go together, even if they sound quite simple. Sometimes they're better than very complicated words. Like scenic area. Scenic and area, they're not very complicated words, but they just go together. Or absolutely stunning. Something that's very, very, very beautiful is absolutely stunning. Taking in all the natural beauty. Taking in means the idea of, oh yeah, you're really there and you're thinking about it, you're seeing it, you're hearing it, you're feeling it, you're taking in all the natural beauty. You can also take in information, or you can take in a scene. You can take in a scene in a cafe or in a city. Disconnect from technology. Again, a phrase that goes together quite nicely, two words that go together nicely. So usually we use screens far too much. I know I use the internet and looking at PowerPoints and technology all day. So to disconnect is to not look at it. To feel calm and centered. Calm, obviously, you're relaxed, and centered means you don't feel out of balance. You don't feel very angry or very mad or very stressed. You're centered. And to make a positive impact. Again, these are all words that are very easy, but they are collocations because the words go together. It made a positive impact. So it has made a positive impact on my life. And I like that phrase at the end because it's a good way to show that you can use the present perfect tense. It has made a positive impact on my life. Last of all, grammar. Let's look at this. So those ones in pink, they show all ways that, or some of the ways where I've used complex sentence structures. So as I talked about before, the as for what it is, and in terms of how, over here, those are nice phrases because it shows that you can use complex structures, and also this way to introduce the topic you're talking about. If you have before and an ing verb, that's a complex structure. Remember that you need to use another verb in that sentence as well. So before bobbing, I like before having my coffee in the morning, I take a shower. Or before going to work, I get dressed. Those are complex structures. And also this is a nice one at the end. So if you can use lots of subordinating conjunctions like if, that's a nice easy one to use and show that you have a range of structures. So as a bonus today, I'm going to tell you how I would train my speaking if I was an IELTS student today. And if I thought, my grammar is not so great, I wish I could use more, or I wish I could use more complex vocabulary. Okay, so we need to talk about the brain. The brain, when it learns something, it uses its neurons. There are billions of neurons in your brain which connect to each other, and that's how we make sense of the world. So all these neurons, they make connections like that, as you can see in the picture. And when you make a new connection, that means you have made some learning, or you've learned something new. And to make that connection stronger, i.e. look at it more or make it more active, it makes it easier for you to speak. That is, use language actively. And that's exactly what you need in the exam, because you don't have time to think a lot during the exam. So you need to make sure that all your connections between your neurons, or those pieces of language, are very strong so that you can access them in your brain very quickly. So let's talk about how we can do that. We need to train some active speaking to make those connections between your neurons very strong. So first of all, focus on just one structure or one piece at a time. And 2, we need to write out 3 example sentences using that structure. Yes, I did say write, and I know it's speaking, but this is a way to strengthen those connections. And 3, we need to use that structure in maybe 5 or more questions, just to make that connection much stronger and much faster, so we don't have to think so much in future. So for example, before ing, I This is a complex structure, because we're using 2 different verbs, and it creates a subordinate clause. Now, that sounds very fancy and complicated, but really it's quite simple. We just need a verb, an ing, and another verb. So we're going to write out 3 example sentences They can be simple, they can be complicated, doesn't matter, as long as they are correct. So for example, these are the ones that I made. Before taking out the rubbish, I put on gloves. Before taking out the rubbish or garbage if you learn American English. Before getting a job, you should study hard at university. Or before studying, I need to be in a calm frame of mind. These are my 3 example sentences which I wrote out. Now you need to find 5 speaking questions where you could use this structure. So have a look through some questions. Maybe you can't use it in all questions, but find 5 where you can. And I look for current questions using this app, which is IELTS Speaking Assistant. So it's available on the Apple Store and also in Google Play. Yeah, I quite like it. It's got a few example questions and it goes quite far back. So I'm sure if you download that, you can find some. Now, I could probably guarantee that about 90% of everyone watching the video will not do any of those things, but if you are one of those people who do, great, that's you strengthening your neural connections and trying to make your speaking more active. Strategies for Part 2 speaking are great, but what you also need are phrases that can improve your fluency really quickly, and to get those, you're going to need to watch this next video up here.